Good evening, guys. Welcome to our session in here for today. I hope all of you guys are able to hear my voice clearly and my screen is also visible. Right, guys? Can I get a small confirmation for this by any one of you? Okay, perfect. So let us get started with the session over here for today. And as you know that we have already completed a major portion from this particular document. So if you guys go through the coursework over here, so the first part is completed introduction to ChatGPT and its functionalities. I have completed up to a certain level. And then what we are basically trying to complete today is that there is some portion which was remaining that we will try to complete today. And then we will start with introduction to basic Python programming, right? I want all of you guys to get started with Python today, right? So that is basically something that we would be doing. So what is the agenda? Let me set the agenda. Let me set the expectation for this session clear to all of you guys. So there is some section from these two blocks which is remaining in our document. We will try to complete that. Next is that we would be starting with basics of Python programming, and for that we would be using Jupyter Notebook as the software, right? So without wasting any time, guys, let us quickly get started with the coursework over here, right? So what I wanted all of you guys to understand is that it is very important for all of you guys on an individual level to understand that we were at, I think, variational encoder space, right? So encoder is basically encoding it into a lower dimensional latent space, right? And decoder is kind of getting that data and converting it back to the higher dimensional space that is available over here. So the main idea or the main overview of this particular part is that you should be in a position where you can transfer the data into a lower dimensional feature space across the internet. So whenever data has been transferred, right, around all the sources, it is expected that we convert it into a lower dimensional feature space and then we transfer it across the internet. So that is basically something that you need to understand about this. Then there is something which is called as, yes, I think, Nazo, you are having any question? And by the way, other than Nazo, also, if you have any questions or doubts, feel free to let me know about that, guys. Everybody. Any questions, any doubts, any concerns that you are having, guys? Okay, perfect. Then let's get started with autoregressive models. Now, in autoregressive models, what is basically happening is that it is like a generative model. Good evening, good evening. It's like a generative model. And here you are expected to generate sequential data, generally like time series data, generally like textual data, music data, something like that. Okay. Now, another portion or another thing over here is that it is very important for all of you guys on an individual level to get an idea about the fact that Transformers is the next big thing, and Transformers is also a really important part. What is random noise vector? Random noise vector is basically a vector whose value is randomly initialized, by the way. Okay. And we try to add a random noise. So in generative AI, what is basically happening is that, let's say I take a particular data. Let's say I take image of a tiger, right? Actual image of a tiger. Now in generative AI, what is happening is that you have to create what you can say artificial image. An artificial image and real image, they should have a very small difference between them, which is not at all noticeable. So a random noise vector is added, which is like a very small, having a which adds a very small deviation between the actual data and the artificial data, such that it is not captured by the other part, right? Like in here, there is this part, discriminator, which is not captured by the discriminator, as well as it adds some variations. That's what it is about, right, Krishna? Now coming back to transformers, so transformers that have transformed generative AI by introducing their architecture like language translation and text generation in the GPT series. So there is encoder decoder structure. So as I told you that there is a transformer architecture, and it is, by the way, a very famous. It is it no? It is randomly initialized. There is a NumPy library which is which is having a lot of functions that can help you to generate that random noise vector. And after that random noise vector has been generated, then you can basically fine tune that noise vector. So it's not generated artificially, it's generated by, like, we are not generating it, it's a function in NumPy. And that too, in NumPy library, there is a random module that is helping you to generate it. Right, Krishna? Okay, perfect. Let us get started with the next part then. So, what is happening, what is basically happening over here is that in transformer, there is a generator, sorry, encoder decoder architecture that is kind of available over here. So, what is basically happening that you can observe over here that encoder, as the name is suggesting, it is encoding the entire sequence of the data, and decoder is basically something which is decoding the data. I can share that document once again, absolutely no problem with this, right? So please try to create a copy of this particular file in your own laptop, everybody guys, and read this much part. So transformer has encoder decoder architecture, and if you want to go into the field of deep learning, then it is very important for you guys to kind of understand that how these things are expected to move ahead, right? No problem. Take your time, guys. Take your time, go through this, and let me know if I can help you with anything. Now, after this is done, the next part, can you please share the syllabus paper? Yes, this is the tentative syllabus paper. I can definitely share that as well, no problem. So, this is basically the document, right? And now let's try to move ahead with multi-headed attention. What is this multi-headed attention topic? It means that whenever there is a statement, English sentence that is getting created, there are different aspects to that particular English sentence, right? What are the aspects? You guys are kind of expected to understand that in every sentence there is some verb, there is some adjective, there is some noun, correct? So in multi-headed attention, your main analysis is revolving around the fact that you are basically expected, right, to understand the different aspects of the input sequence. So if there are multiple words that are coming one after another, what is the logic behind that? That is basically something that you need to understand. Take your time, guys, for this. Then positional encoding we will discuss later. First, read this, understand this, then we will move ahead. Now, after this is done, there is positional encoding. What is this positional encoding all about, guys? So in positional encoding, what we are basically kind of trying to move ahead with is that we are kind of trying to get an idea about the fact, or we are trying to kind of get an idea about a portion that here are certain, what you can say, do not have built-in word sense. So let's say that there is a sentence. So what is basically happening is that machines don't understand that this is a sentence structure, this is the syntax, this is the lexical processing. So in NLP, there are so many different aspects to it. So what is basically happening is that positional encodings are added. So associated with respect to every word, there are encodings that are being done. So the RNN algorithms, transformer architectures, what they are doing is that adding this encoding that this is a verb, this is a noun associated with respect to every sentence. Right, guys? So that is positional encoding to make sure that we are making the computer smart enough so that they can generate a text and then that textual data can interact with us. So the thing is that when you are going on ChatGPT and when you are writing the sentence, it is very, don't you feel it's a really new concept that machines can create text and then we can interact, right? So that is basically one of the really important things that you need to take into consideration. Now, after this is done, the next part over here is that the decoder uses self-attention that focuses on previously generated words. So let's say that we go on Google, right? Let's go on Google. How to use NumPy, right? And the other things are basically coming over here. So how do you think the other suggestions are coming as a search engine? Don't you feel how the other suggestions are coming? Let's research about it. So what is basically happening over here is that it takes into account whatever has been written previously, and then we are kind of moving ahead with the other options that are available, right? So what is happening over here is that whatever is the previous sentence, exactly next word prediction problem, absolutely correct. So in my master's degree, there was a problem exactly predicting the next word. So there is a probability that is coming for a particular word. And then whatever words are having maximum probability, they are being displayed over here. So it turns out to a probability prediction problem. So you have a context of words from the historical data, and then whichever part is having highest probability that gets available at the top, right? Take your time for this, go through this, and let me know if you're having any questions, doubts, or concerns on this. 30 seconds, guys, read this till this moment, and then we will try to move ahead. After you have read this particular part, there is something called as positional wise feed forward network, which is about that same thing. Now, the interesting part in which there is no technical aspect or there is no technical logic included, that where is this particular part or where is this particular logic included? Where is this generative AI included? And I pretty much doubt that you're not using it right now in your work. So I am heavily using this particular thing in my day-to-day activities, right? So what is basically happening over here is that it is basically very important for all of you guys to understand that arts and music, text generation, deepfake generation, game development, drug discovery. So let's say that if you want to, what you can say, create some questions, create some PPT, create some content, right? Then at that particular point of time, it is very important for all of you guys to understand that we are moving ahead with this particular part, correct? So ChatGPT can be used for that. Even ChatGPT has become very famous, but even other than ChatGPT, there are a lot of options that are available over here with which you can move ahead. So you can take a minute, you can generate pictures, you can, so let's say you have a picture of your own, you can change the background, right? If you want, you can create artificial images. So take your time, go through this. There is a lot of portion that is written over here. What are the uses and like probably one of the most in-demand skills. Like if you go on LinkedIn or if you go on Indeed, I personally think that this is one of the most sought skills that is available out there, right? Now, after this is done, text generation. So obviously, if I go on ChatGPT and if I write 10 MCQs for generative AI, right now, if I want to prepare the content for you guys, and if I ask that particular thing, so ChatGPT can give me that particular list of questions pretty easily, that too, right? In a similar way, if you want to create reports, if you want to create presentations, if you want to summarize a few things, so a lot of people ask you that please provide a write-up of your core, your professional summary. So this is basically the part, or this is basically the portion with which you can provide a write-up and everything. Correct? So text generation is like one of the most important applications. Deep fake generation, swapping the faces, GAN networks are so famous, and there are a lot of cybersecurity threats to that as well, right? Which we will discuss later through the tenure of our coursework. Next is that there is something called as game development, drug discovery. AI is being used in medical industry to discover new drugs to reduce the toxicity and increase the efficacy in lesser amount of time, obviously. Correct? And last is 3D object creation by NVIDIA GAN, right? So read till this moment, take 30 seconds for this. What is exactly variational encoders? Variational encoders, Krishna, what they are doing is that they are taking a very high dimensional data, right? And they are kind of try to encode that data according to some formula, let's say, in very simple words. And then that formula has been passed on to the other end. And finally, you are going to move ahead with the other part or with the other section, right? So take your time, go through this, and let me know if you are having any questions, doubts, or concerns on this. Everybody, guys. So now after that, we will try to discuss about ChatGPT because that is one of the primary things that is there in our coursework. So read till this 3D generation. I hope Krishna, you are clear with this, right? Krishna, you are there. So obviously we can go into much more depths, which we will definitely go through. But as of now, at a very, I can't say, sir, I haven't understand. Can you say it once again? Yes, why not? So let's go to the topic which you are having doubt in, variational encoders. So in variational encoders, what is basically happening? That there are two things. There is encoding and there is decoding that is happening for all the data. So let's say whatever is the data that you are working around with, nowadays it has become really high dimensional in nature. Okay. So because of that particular portion, what has happened or what is basically happening is that because of that high dimensional space that is available over here, you are expected. So let's say that you upload a PPT, or let's say that you upload a coursework. Let's say you upload this coursework itself on ChatGPT and ask them that what are the things that we can optimize. So this is a PDF document. If you want to use generative AI on images, so deep fake generation, or let's say you want to generate artificial images or something like that, that is a very big amount of data and you cannot work or transfer such a big amount of data all over the internet, right? So that is why we are using variational encoders to transform them into a lower dimensional latent space. Then we work on that lower dimensional latent space data and come up with some interesting conclusions, right? Is it clear now, Krishna? I have given you a document, you have one reading of that document, then we will move ahead with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is the next big section that is available over here. 1 minute, guys, everybody, please go through ChatGPT and please go through everything before ChatGPT section and then we can try to move ahead with that. No problem, Krishna, no problem. So we will tap the technical stuff, Kusuma, in maybe another 15-20 minutes, right? So now let's try to move ahead with ChatGPT. It's an OpenAI product. I hope all of you guys are aware of it. It is because it is built upon this pre-trained product generative pre-trained transformer architecture. So whatever transformer architecture we have been discussing, it is very important that you are aware of this particular part. So it is basically a state-of-the-art model for natural language processing. Why state-of-the-art? Because it can communicate with you, right? And basically, depending on that, it can help you to get a really good idea about the given section over here, right? So it has been aimed to provide answers based on auto detection of words and provide the outputs to the inputs that have been given. How does it work? It utilizes transformer architecture. So transformer architecture we have learned about. So there is a vast amount of textual data that is present. That textual data is vectorized. So in natural language processing, there is a concept of vectorization in which what you do is that you are basically kind of converting the raw data that you are basically having, the raw textual data, into numbers, because at the end of the day, all the machine learning algorithms that are available over here, they can just work on numbers, right? So what you're basically doing is that you're converting that into numbers, and then depending on that, you're moving ahead. We'll take 30 seconds for this and then we will discuss it further. So the first paragraph is something which should be totally clear to all of you, right? I can share the reading material. Yes, I have developed this for you guys itself because a lot of people feel that it is only about coding, but it's not like that. It's about first, it's about knowing what should you code, right? So unless and until you guys are not knowing what you need to code, it is not going to help you. Correct? Now, after this is done, the next part over here, right? It is basically about a reinforcement learning. So do you know reinforcement learning? In reinforcement learning, there are some terminologies which we will discuss. So I missed session one and two. Kind of it will have to go through the recorded sessions, right? Everything is like kind of dependent on each other. So unless and until you are good to go with first session, you will face issues in understanding second, and if you are having issues with second, third. So it's like connected. So even if you mess up anything, it will have an effect on the nth session that we are having. Okay, it's like a continuous sequence. Now let us get started with something called as reinforcement learning. So in reinforcement learning, what basically is happening over here is that there are a few terminologies. Like there is something called as state, there is something called as environment, there is something called as action, there is something called as agent, there is something called as reward. So what is basically happening is like, let us imagine the game of chess. Let me explain you the concept of reinforcement learning in short. So let us take example of game of chess. In the game of chess, everybody guys, have you played game of chess on laptop or CPU? I mean, computer anytime with the CPU or processor? Everybody guys, have you played it with a proper version, not the lower level, like proper machines? Have you played chess? Everybody. So they are so fine-tuned that it's not like pre-coded. So depending on what move you are playing, they are finding out the best optimal move. Correct? Yes or no, guys? Depending on whatever move you are playing, okay. On top of that, they are finding the best moves to checkmate you. So agent is basically the CPU or the system, right? Agent is basically the software system in this case. So what that software system is expected to do is that software system is expected to perform an action. Action is basically a step in the game of chess, right? What is environment? Environment is basically the chessboard. So what is happening is that the software system is expected to find out the step or take some actions, right? Such that the state of the game is changing in our direction, right? So what are the things? Either you are checkmated, right? Other than that, you can checkmate. Like there are two variants of checkmate. Either you are checkmated or opponent is, or it's draw, or it's going on, right? So basically, what you are expected to do is that you are expected to create a software system in such a way that the software system will take a step or a number of steps in the environment, which is chessboard, which is going to change the state of the environment such that, please remember my words, such that the state of the environment is changed according to what we want. And if it is happening, then we give reward to the agent. Only then we give reward to the agent. So this is basically something which is like a really important portion. This is basically something which is like a really important concept in reinforcement learning. So it is recorrecting their errors based on previous knowledge. Absolutely, it is recorrecting the error as well as it is trying to research on every game. So it's not like it has, if it has played 10 to 15 games, then it will copy. No, every time it will try to research, right? And that is what reinforcement learning is all about. So I'm expecting that you should know this because generative AI is a very specific topic, and for doing that generative AI, it is very important that you guys are in a good to go position, right? With the basic topics. So now the second part is that OpenAI stated in a statement that reinforcement learning works from the human feedback, right? And it can reject inappropriate inputs and retrain them. So whatever is the input that you are giving it depends on that. Take a minute to read this, guys. Read it. Let me know if you are having any specific doubts, and then we will move ahead, guys. So now let's try to move ahead. There is a question that I'm getting. It is incorrect. It will recorrect their errors. All the concepts in ChatGPT generative AI are based on reinforcement learning. Absolutely, reinforcement learning and deep learning both, right? Both reinforcement learning and deep learning. Now let's try to move ahead. I hope you have read this. What is the cost of ChatGPT? It is $20 per month. It is the professional account and everything, right? Now, after this particular portion is done, what I want all of you guys to kind of understand is that let's try to go into the technical part. Is it a reliable? It is not 100% accurate, right? So the people who have created ChatGPT, they themselves are saying that don't rely on the results or situations where you're expecting 100% accuracy of this particular part. It's not 100% accurate. But with that being said, you won't believe me that it has tremendously increased the productivity of employees. So in 2024, if you are not using ChatGPT in your day-to-day life, then you are doing a lot of hard work. So ChatGPT has made the life of people so easy. Like you can do the same thing with lesser amount of efforts, right? So that is the part about reliability which you can read. And the next part that comes up over here is prompt engineering. So what is this prompt engineering all about? Anybody knows prompt engineering, guys? There is a topic of prompt engineering in here. So have you read this prompt engineering, power of prompt engineering? What is this word? Lately on LinkedIn and in many other places, you might have seen that there are a lot of packages, like very high packages that people with prompt engineering skills get. So have you heard about what is like, have you researched about it is the way of communicating with LLMs? Okay, good. Anybody else, guys? So prompt engineering is basically a part in which a natural language, right? Like I am speaking with you. This is the language, this is the natural language. So in prompt engineering, you are basically structuring the interpretation in such a way that, or structuring the question or the sentence in such a way that it is understood by a generative AI model. So exactly correct. It is a way of communicating with LLMs, right? So the most important part is that people directly go on ChatGPT. They write what they want to do. Correct? As Sasida, you have said, way of communicating. So we will go on ChatGPT. We will type that we need the gist of this book or we need this particular thing from that thing. Correct? Now the point is that this sentence has to be communicated to a proper way to the server and the interpreter of ChatGPT. And that is done with this prompt engineering portion effectively, right? So this is basically the part about prompt engineering, best answers with the help of AI, clever way to get best answers from AI. And there are limitations of ChatGPT that there is no real-time output, external support from URL is not allowed, location-based facility is still missing. ChatGPT was not able to answer basic questions, right? Next is that there is no real-time output, which is already done. Okay, I think they are represented. And now after this is done, they lack understanding concept and vulnerable to misinformation. So take 30 seconds, read it. This is the background, and believe me, it is very important because you may feel that let's start to the coding, and I have a lot of coding exercises for all of us today, right? Don't worry about that. But the most important part is that you should know the theory. So whenever there is interview that is happening, it is always happening based on this particular part. Now, after this is done, let us try to move ahead, sir. To have the knowledge about deep learning, should we start with basics? Exactly correct. Very good. So the thing over here is that you should first know machine learning, right? So the first thing is that you should know basics of Python coding. Then Python for data science like NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, Seaborn. Then you should know the foundations of machine learning. Basically, what is data pre-processing, what is overfitting, what is underfitting, what is bias, what is variance, what is bias variance trade-off. Okay. Then you know should know all the ML models. You should know the sklearn library. After that, you should know the deep learning architecture, CNN, RNN, LSTM, differentials, gradients, and after that, you are expected to learn generative AI. There is a flow that you need to follow. Is it true that GPT is updated till this part? I think whatever they would be saying, the official documentation, that would be true. I don't think it should be true. It should be updated than that. September 2021 is like way older than that. So now after this is done, how are people using ChatGPT? So they are basically helping the users to get more popular applications. They are flooded with things that people are doing with the latest sensation. You can like literally if you are stuck in a lead coding problem, right? And if you want the solution, you can literally go out there and ask the ChatGPT to give you the solution for that. And that too not in one way. There are more than one ways. That is also something that ChatGPT can give you. I have done that. So there was a Python problem. I was trying it and I was not able to get it. I copied it, I pasted it over there, and ChatGPT gave me the solution. Right? Let's try to go out there and let's try to do one more thing. A very basic Python code for getting Fibonacci series. Right? Python code for getting Fibonacci series. So now as soon as you enter this particular portion, you will observe that it will give the Python code for getting the Fibonacci series. It takes time, but it will give this particular information, right? So this is basically something that you need to kind of understand that here all of these things can be completed. See, it is kind of thinking and then generating. See, this is the code for getting, and here is the explanation of the code as well. So in my field, this is the main use of generative AI, like my corporate field where I'm working full time. Other than that, it is very important that you should get an idea, you should get an overview about the other parts as well. So if I want to prepare a list of questions that I need to ask you as an assignment, if I need to prepare a presentation, if I need to prepare a word file, ChatGPT can be used for that. Similarly, in your field also, coding, poetry, songwriting, game or movie suggestion, all of this is basically something that can be completed. So you read till this much point and let me know if I can help you with anything, guys. Now, after this is done, the next part over here that I want you to understand, it is basically revolving around a portion That can ChatGPT create programming language code? Yes, I have done it in front of you, right? Can it create algorithms? Yes, definitely. So let's open ChatGPT, right? And here let's write bubble sorting algorithm. So basically, it will help you to get the bubble sorting algorithm in Python. So this is something that it will help you, correct? So it can create algorithms, it can generate the code within seconds, it can generate it. And that too, this is the free version, right? That too, this is the free version. Correct. So take a time, read this, and then let's take a small break of 10 minutes and let's resume at 18:06. Thank you. 10 minutes break, guys. So guys, let us get started, and I have a question for you. Do you guys have Jupyter Notebook installed in your laptop, everybody? Guys, Jupyter Notebook is there, right? Because Jupyter Notebook is basically the place where we would be coding. So for all the learners who don't have Jupyter Notebook, you can do it collab. You can even do it Visual Studio Code if you want to. I don't mind that. But you can use Spider, PyCharm, Jupyter Notebook, Collab, VS Studio Code. I don't mind that at all. But my recommendation is that there is a tool or there is a software named Anaconda Navigator, the link for which I'm giving it to you. Now, this is a beautiful software. Why I'm saying that this is a beautiful software? Because of the fact that in this single, so first of all, it is free. Okay, you don't have to pay any money to use this software. That's the best part of this particular tool. Second thing over here is that it is very important for all of you guys to understand that you need to also uh, take this particular consideration into mind that there are so many tools into it. Just give me 1 minute. Let's open Anaconda Navigator. So when we open Anaconda Navigator, just 1 minute, guys. Let it open up. So now after this is done, the next part over here that I want all of you guys to kind of understand over here is that just have a look at this particular part. It is available for Windows, it is available for MacBook, it is available for Linux, it is basically available for everything, right? Point number one. Point number two is that if you are very serious about getting a role into data science or data analytics industry, then it's not that you will just need one tool. Okay, please be very clear about it. It is never the fact that there is just one tool that you would be requiring. You would be requiring more than one tools for that. So if you go out there and if you individually download these tools, just have a look. So there is CMD, EXE prompt, there is data lore, there is IBM Watson Studio Cloud, right? So the point over here is that if these things are taken into consideration, you will notice this particular part that we have to take this particular portion into consideration, right? Everybody, are you getting my point? So this particular portion is something that you need to take into consideration. So you will definitely need all of these tools. Definitely, right? Definitely, I'm 100% sure on this. So what is basically going to happen over here is that you would be definitely needing this particular part over here. So now after this particular portion is done, Jupyter Lab, Jupyter Notebook, and if you individually download these softwares, it is basically going to cover up this particular part, right? Is this clear, guys? Everybody, are you getting my point, guys? Now, after this particular portion is done, are you clear with this? So let's open up Jupyter Notebook, right? You can download it from here and just take one precaution that when you are installing this software, install it for all the users so that you are in sync, right? Otherwise, later I have seen that a lot of students come back to me complaining that we are not able to install some libraries or install some softwares or something like that. Correct? So now after this is done, let us try to move ahead with the next part over here. So now what we are basically expected to do over here is that this is the interface. This is now the kernel of Jupyter Notebook is live, and I'm telling this to all the learners who are using this tool or who are using this particular software for the first time, right? So what is basically happening over here is that you need to understand this particular portion that Now this is your working directory or working environment. And what is basically going to happen in this working directory or in this working environment is that you can create a folder structure, right? Like for example, let's go in documents, let's go in Blackbucks, let's go in generative AI. And over here, let's create a folder called as coding files. And let's store all the coding files over there. So see the coding file folders got appeared over here. Go over here, go in new Python file. So what this is basically doing is that this is basically creating a Python file for all of you guys, and then you can have session 1 as the name of this file. So this is the interface of Jupyter Notebook, and for all the people who are coding either in Jupyter Notebook and Google Colab, it's fine. But for all the people who are using PyCharm, Spider, VS Studio Code, let me tell you that in industry, we generally use this cell by cell architecture, right? So what is happening in industry is that there is a cell by cell architecture. This is one Jupyter cell. If you click on plus, there are Jupyter cells that would be added over here. Similarly, if you click on this cross, there would be Jupyter cells that would be closed over here or deleted over here. Correct? So what I want you guys to kind of understand is, so let's say like I type A, S. Let's say I click on cross, that cell was deleted, right? So that is basically something that you need to understand in how many weeks the course would be completed. It's a 25, 26 weeks coursework. And for 6 hours per week, I think 1 month, 5 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks. Okay. So now this is basically the coding file. This run button is basically the button that will help you to execute any Python code or any Python part that is present over here. Right, guys? So now let us try to move ahead with the coding over here. Right? Are you ready with the coding file, everybody, guys? Everybody, are you ready with the coding file? Guys, can I start? Yes. So this is a PPT file that I have created for all of you guys. By the way, I'm giving you the link for this. Okay. So basically, in this file, I have mentioned basic things about Python. So Python is a high-level programming language. It is object-oriented. There are object-oriented programming principles that are kind of covered over here, right? So all of these things are mentioned in this particular PPT, which we will go through later on, right? Let's first try to do some basic level of coding, and let's try to get hands-on programming in Python first. Okay, so you have print statement. So what is basically happening? Print hello world. And it is basically going to print hello world for all of you. Right? Print hello world, and it is basically going to print hello world. Yes, Subramanya, tell me. So this is the run button. You write this code and you will get the output. So print is basically a statement that is used for displaying the output on the screen that is available over here. Yes, Subramanya, tell me in the global chat, tell me your doubt. Now, after this is done, the next part over here is variables, right? Examples of variables. So Python is basically a programming language in which variable initiation happens automatically. So counter equal to 100, miles equal to 1000.0, name is equal to machine learning, and then you are expected to have print counter, right? Print type of counter variable. Similarly, let's write generative AI. Let's try to have BWO which is equal to 2. And now what you're basically expected to do over here is miles name bool, which is Boolean variable. That's why I've written BW. So when you run it, you will see that when I'm printing counter, sorry, Subramanya, we are conducting the session in the webinar mode. So that is why you will have to tell your queries by chat itself. I'm so sorry for that, but there are 276 learners and want to make, we want to ensure that there is proper sanity in the session. So that is why you will have to tell all of your questions through chat. I'm there to help you. What is Python 3 kernel? It's basically the version of Python. Python 3 means Python 3 version. So now there are different versions in that 3.0 and things like that, right? So that is basically something that you need to kind of understand. Now, after this is done, sir, sorry for disturbing, but understand my problem, sir. Also, sir, on a week, how many classes are there? No, I don't mind you disturbing, right? But this is the protocol that we have to follow. And in a week, I was told that there would be two classes, one on Wednesday and one on Saturday. But recently they have changed it and there are three classes, one on Monday, one on Wednesday, and one on Saturday. Recently, this change has happened. Okay. So there are three classes or three sessions that we would be kind of having. Now, after this particular portion or after this particular section is done, everybody guys, any questions or doubts that you are having? Please show the output. Yes, output, we were discussing the output now. We're absolutely correct. So 100 is basically the output of print counter. Okay. So let's do one thing. Let's not print the output over here. It will create confusion. Let's run it and then let's try to separate it out, right? So that you guys are not having any confusion over here. So basically what we are kind of trying to do over here is let's have output one, right? So there is one comment over here, sir. We don't have laptops or any computer devices. Then how these devices is it possible? It is not possible on mobile devices. And I think if possible, you will have to be ready with a laptop for live coding sessions, if possible. Otherwise, you can observe and later on, maybe in computer, laptop, or something like that, you can practice it. If you have, it's better because you would be able to practice that, right? So now after this is done, let's try to see what we are basically expected to do. So there is print hello world. Okay, there are these three variables that we are creating. And when I'm printing counter, it is giving 100. And when I am doing print type of counter, it is giving this particular part, right? So what is this type going to give you guys, everybody? This type is going to give you class int. What is the meaning of this? That this counter variable is of class int. Now guys, you tell me, did we create any type or did we allocate any type to the variable? Tell me, did we allocate any type to the variable, guys? Yes, no, no, right? We just allocated the value. Without print statement, we can print it. Yes, you just write a variable name, the output will appear, but it's better to write print statement everywhere. That's a better option. Now, my point over here that I want all of you guys to kind of understand, it is basically revolving around a fact, or it is basically revolving around the portion that did we allocate the variable type? They are built in. Absolutely correct, Shruti. So it's not like it's built in. Depending on the value that you allocate to the variable, this is automatically taken, right? So this is something that you need to take into consideration. Automatically decided by the value of the variable. Absolutely correct. So depending on what type of value you are allocating, the data type of the variable is something that we need to take into consideration over here. Okay. Now, after this particular section or after this particular portion is done, let's try to see miles. It is float. What is the meaning of float? Float means decimal point values, right? And now after this, name is a string, generative AI, and do is a Boolean value of class BOOL. Right, so this is basically, sir, are you going to cover LangChain in this course? I don't think LangChain is there. No, LangChain is not going to be covered. As of now, if there is a change in the coursework, I will cover it up. But as of now, there is no change in the coursework. Now, after this is done, guys, are you clear with this? So after this is done, let's move ahead with the next part. So now after this is done, what I am trying to, Shushri is saying done. So let's try to move ahead with the next section over here. So this is about basically the types of the variables, and when you are starting with coding, it is very important for you to understand that. Now, there is a if statement that you need to understand. Let's say a is equal to 5. If a is greater than 0, print a is a positive integer. So you can observe that this statement is getting printed. Right? Why is this statement getting printed? Because a is greater than 0. Right? Because this condition is coming out to be true. That is why the statement is getting printed over here. Correct? But the most important part that I need all of you guys to understand and to pay attention to is that this is an indentation. If we don't give this indentation, you will get indentation error. Right? See, indentation error. So this one space, one extra space that is available over here, this one extra space is basically indicating that the print statement is inside if block, right? So this is not a useless space. This space has got some meaning in Python, right? So take your time, go through this, and let me know if I can help you with anything, guys. Take 30 seconds, write it in your laptop, and let me know if I can help you with anything, guys. So now after this is done, let us try to move ahead with if else statement, right? Let us try to move ahead with if else statement. So now what I want all of you guys to understand over here is that let us now move ahead with this block and let us have a equal to -5. Else print a is a negative integer. What do you think would be printed, guys? Everybody? What is your understanding? What is your thought process on this? What do you think would be printed? Come on, guys. I need some answers for this. A is -5. Is -5 greater than or equal to 0? No. So is the if condition true? No. So when the if condition is not true, it will automatically go into else block. Hence, A is a negative integer is getting kind of printed. Right? A is a negative integer is kind of getting printed over here. So you can use single if, you can use if and else in combination, right? Everybody, guys, try to type it. And after this is done, let us have something called as if elif else statement. A is equal to 0 if A is greater than 0. Print A is a positive integer. Elif A is less than 0. Print A is a negative integer. Else print A is equal to 0. So what is this elif thing now? everybody, guys, what is the meaning of this elif thing? Everybody. So elif basically means else if. Elif is the keyword which stands for else if, meaning that if this condition is true, then it will print this. Else if this condition is true, it will print this. And if all the conditions above else are not true, then it will go over here. So since in this particular statement, all the conditions above else, are not true, that is why we are getting this statement over here. Else if. Elif is the keyword which stands for else if. Absolutely correct. Now, after this is done, so this is if, elif, else. And this is one of the concepts over here that definitely plays a huge impact, right? So take your wise decision before you frame the logic of any problem statement over here. Now, after this particular, so I can use online Python interpreter. Yes, you can definitely. Why not? You can use online Python interpreter as well, right? Next thing is that I want you guys to kind of understand loops, right? So here we have loops in Python. So what is happening for this particular concept loops in Python? First thing over here is for loop. So fruits is equal to apple, banana, cherry. For I in fruits, print I, which means that for every individual element, correct iteration, for every individual element in the list fruits, you print that element one by one. So in the first iteration, I is equal to apple, right? And that is why apple is getting printed. In the second iteration, I is equal to banana, and hence banana is getting printed. In the third iteration, I is equal to cherry, and hence cherry is getting printed. So take your time, go through this, and let me know if you guys are kind of having any questions or doubts on this. Can we print it using while? We will move ahead with while loop after for loop is done. We will move ahead with while loop. Take a minute for this, by the way. So for loop and while loop, these are the two loops in Python, and these two loops are basically framing the initial level architecture over here, right? So this is basically something which really helps you in a lot of sections, lot of portions. I didn't understand that loop concept. So Shiva, let me explain you. So this fruits is basically a list. Okay. Will tab space generated automatically? Yes, generally it gets generated automatically. You don't have to write it. The interpreter, it generates it on its own. And what is happening, Shiva? That for I in fruits, I is basically the iterator, right? Now the concept is that iterator iterates over the values of the list in the about case, right? So what is the value of I in the first part? It's apple, then it's banana, then it's cherry. So that is why in the first iteration of the for loop, this is basically getting printed, right? Next concept, Siva, I hope this helps you, right? Next is while loop. Let us initialize I equal to 1. While I is less than 6 means unless and until, but generally in Python, the loop is of two types, for and for each loop. So yeah, this is that for loop, and second is while loop, right? Tulasi, that second is while loop, which we are going to cover up right now. Print I and I is equal to I plus 1. So when I started with coding for the first time, I had a lot of doubts in this. What is the meaning of I is equal to I plus 1? So nobody tells this, but this is actually updated value of I. It is equal to old value of I plus 1. So this is basically incrementing the value of I by 1 in every iteration. Okay. And that is what. So in the first iteration, I is equal to 1 because it is initialized by 1. Then 1 is less than 6, 1 would be printed, I would be updated to 2. 2 is less than 6, 2 would be printed. 3, 4, 5. So when 5 is printed, I will be updated to 6. And 6 is not less than 6, hence the while loop is terminated. So it just prints till 5 because after that, the condition that you gave in the while loop, it is coming out to be false. Right? I is a variable over here. Right? Kaya Kokulu, I is a variable in this part. So the for loop always executes for a fixed number of iterations right? Which is equal to the number of items in the iteratable. Whereas while loop executes until the condition in the condition turns out to be false. Right? Is it clear, everybody, guys, to all of you? What are your understanding? So now after this is done, type it. I have always observed this one thing in my career, that you may feel that okay, I'm getting this thing, but unless and until you are practically typing it, it is not the truth. Yes, any questions, guys? So, guys, after this is done, let us try to move ahead with something called as nested loops. Right now, nested loops is the next complex thing over here. So in nested loops, what is basically happening, that there is one loop inside another. So let's have ADJ equal to red, big, tasty. Fruits is equal to, let's again have that same apple, banana, cherry. Now for X in fruits means for every value in fruits, for Y, sorry, X in ADG, for Y in fruits, print X comma Y. So in the first iteration, what is going to happen? X is equal to red, Y is equal to apple. In the second iteration, X is equal to red, right? Once this print is done, X is going to remain red, but Y is changing from apple to banana. In the third iteration, X will remain red and Y will go to cherry. Now, after this is done, fourth iteration, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. So X will change from red to big, and then it will change to tasty. You can run it and you can observe same output is there. Red repeated for apple, banana, cherry. Big repeated for apple, banana, cherry. And tasty repeated for apple, banana, and cherry. So what is basically going to happen over here is that it is more about logic development, right? Now, after this is done, there is break example 1 for letter in Python. If print current letter, and if letter double equal to h, break. Otherwise print. So what will happen? Can anybody tell me? Break keyword, let me tell you what it does. Break keyword, as the name is suggesting, it terminates the loop in which it is placed. So when this condition is coming out to be true, then the loop would be terminated. Means that it will print P, Y, T, H, and after that the loop would be terminated. O and N would not be printed. Absolutely, Kusuma, up till H. Absolutely correct, yes. Take your time for this, guys. Now, after this is done, the next part over here is VAR is equal to 10, while VAR is greater than 10. Print current variable, which is VAR. VAR is equal to VAR minus 1. VAR is equal to 5, then break. What will happen? Here, what we are doing is that here we are decreasing the value of VAR by 1. So technically, if break statement is not there, it will go from 10, 9, 8, 7 till 1, right? Till 1. From 10 to 1 would be printed. But as soon as VAR becomes equal to 5, 6, sorry, it is decreased to 5, 6 is printed, then it is decreased to 5. Then this if condition turns out to be true and loop is terminated. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. That's it. We don't get anything after that. Why? Because of this particular portion. So take your time. Everybody, guys, any other questions that you are having, try to type it. So now let's try to wrap up how many sessions per week. So as I told you that I was being told that there are 2 sessions per week, one on Wednesday, one on Saturday. But I think they have changed it and it's on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, right? So this is the coding file. Can you again send the feedback form? I think you can get in touch with the course coordinators because I don't have the feedback form. Okay. This is the live coding file, guys. You can download it. You can keep it in your laptop for your reference. Okay. And one of the most important things that you need to kind of take into consideration over here is that you need to move ahead with this section over here, right? So take your time. Sunday, you have a break tomorrow, right? I think your feedback itself is your attendance, Ganesh. That's what I'm thinking as of now. Okay. Download that coding file, try to practice it, read the content that I have given to you already. Okay. And come prepared on Monday so that we can be in a better position. Overall, we can be in a better position. Right? So anything that you guys would like to ask me before we wrap up the session? Okay. Thank you everybody guys. I hope you have enjoyed today's session. I don't think Ganesh as of now from mine. We are going to learn NumPy and pandas as well. Yes. In detail that too. Yes. NumPy and pandas in detail in next session. Yes. Right. So thank you everybody for attending the session. I hope you have enjoyed today's session. Let's try to wrap it up and enjoy your Sunday. Let's meet again on Monday then. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Bye.